Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Kenny Kizzle, and I am down at the shop where my cousin works, and he is in the process. This is the shop where we started cleaning parts and everything for the H project, and he is in the process of restoring his own project. And I'm going to let him go ahead and kind of give us an introduction and a run through on what he's working on. So with that, let's find him and figure out what it is he's working on. Okay, so this is my cousin Mike, and he is currently working on what kind of vehicle?
This is a 1985 Peterbilt extended hood 359 model.
Okay. And where did it come from?
This one came from Texas, and I was me and the girlfriend went all over the place looking for one of these guys, and everything we looked at was rotten. You know how like even the fish houses up here in Minnesota, there's the aluminum where the rivets go through, that electrolysis.
Yeah.
You know, everything up here was like that. Or even we went as far as like Nashville, and they were still rotten. And so I seen this. This one was rolled hard and put away wet. It was a pile of poop. And, but it kept popping up on Craigslist. And I'm like, why doesn't nobody buy that thing? So I called the guy, and he was a nice guy, and he asked, can I do anything to help you? You know, pictures or anything, let me know. And I said, yeah. I said, you could send me some pictures of up close, you know, underneath the doors and stuff where all those rivets are where they get rotten. Mm-hmm. And he goes, okay, I'll do that. And he goes, what am I doing that for? What am I looking for? I said, well, rot.
Rust and rot.
And I could tell there was definitely something going on with the silence on the other side of the phone. He just sat there like, doesn't this guy understand what I'm looking for? And he didn't understand what I was looking for. And he goes, well, explain what it would look like then. And I'm like, well, there'd be little tiny pinholes, you know, and just rot. And he's like, this truck has spent its whole life in New Mexico. So he goes, I don't think it's been rained on 6 times. So I was like, okay. So me and the girlfriend flew down there, and it was, like I say, it needed a lot of help. But the good thing is that the cab and everything was not rot, or the frame, anything. Mm-hmm. Like when I took this thing apart, all the bolts came out. That never
That's
happened.
impressive.
Yeah, so.
Not going to happen up here, that's for sure.
But the thing was that it hadn't been on the road for 13 years or something like that. And I asked him if it would make it to Minnesota, and he says, God, he goes, I'd hate to tell you to go ahead and drive it, because he bought it for a restoration project. Just, you know, how life gets in the way. So the tires were bad all the way around, so when we left, we had to fly back home. He took it to a tire shop, and I told him I'd call ahead with my credit card, and we put new tires on it. So when he came back down to get it, I noticed that the front bumper was kind of bent in and like almost rubbing the front tire. Mm-hmm. So I brought a chain with me, and I was just going to hook onto something and back up and pull that bumper. I brought my dad with, you know, and he's thinking, oh, you bought a 359, I'm going to go with. I said, Dad, I don't think you understand. This thing is bad, like really bad. I said, if you're going to go with and make fun of me, I said, I don't even want you to go. So he goes, well, it can't be that bad. I said, it's bad. So.
And he's kind of the motivation behind
Yeah,
this, right?
that is, okay, so we'll back up a little bit. My dad's an over-the-road trucker, and he had a 359 in the day. So
Yeah.
that's why ever since I was little, he'd come home on the weekends to spend some time with the family, and I'd sit in that truck and spit on the windshield all weekend, So that's why, yeah, because my dad. But anyway, so my dad's a perfectionist. So he goes, well, it can't be that bad. And so when we get there, he's like, that's it? And I'm like, yeah. And you could see it in his eyes that he was not impressed. When I hooked onto the front bumper and started backing up to pull it away from the tire, he was really not impressed. But my buddy told me, he said, if that thing makes it 100 miles, it'll make it home. And we hit the 100-mile mark. I said, we're golden, and it never skipped a beat all the way home. And then it was going to be just let's cut the back end off and stretch it so it looks cool.
Yeah.
And then it turned into this, and we ended up replacing the rails because if you come up here, I'll show you what we found. The thing had a driver's side sag to it, and we couldn't figure out what was causing it. So I don't know how many other Peterbilts might be out there like this, but these two mounts are for the bell housing, and if you probably can't see it on camera, but they're supposed to be canted downhill a little bit like this.
Towards the rear.
Yes. So this one is straight, and this one's crooked. Well, the transmission bell housing is like this. So when you tighten these bolts, this frame rail would go like a banana, pick that spring up, and the truck would sag. But the weird thing was the radiator was that way, but the truck's sagging this way, and it took us forever. And we finally found out this is the problem right here. So I don't know, and I know this has never been a part, this truck, because we took this off. There's still a sticker, Peterbilt part numbers on the back side of this. So this truck left the factory that way, and I don't know how it would have got out being crooked like that, but that was driving me nuts. So instead of redoing this mount, I took the motor, put it back in here with the new frame rails.
Which you had to drill every hole in.
Yes, 237 holes. And we cut the mount. There's a bolt-on mount like this on the bell housing. We cut that mount off and tweaked it while everything was mocked up, so it won't happen again. But it just blows me away that how did this thing get out the door like that? You know what I mean? But that's what we found. We mocked it up, had it on the ground. Everything sits perfectly square. Like I said, this was just supposed to be like a rear cut, and then a guy starts looking underneath and he sees all the grease in here, and then with the motor shoved in here, you can't even hardly get your finger and rub this. That's all full of grease. You're like, well, how am I going to get that out of there? And then pretty soon it's just you lie awake at night, like, fuck it.
And we are where we are.
That's how we got to this point. So yeah, and then I want to tell you too, my other inspiration besides my dad was that Twin Sticks garage. That guy has more determination than anybody I've seen, and he's obviously into Peterbilt trucks or old trucks like I am. But for that guy, when it's 20 below, he just builds a fire and works outside. Lucky for me, I'm just a mechanic, but my company lets me do this, with as you can see, I don't have a big shop like this. I'm just a normal mechanic. But thank God they let me use their shop, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. But so that's where we're at with this, and this white is not the color. This is a two-part epoxy primer, non-sandable, they say, but when you can get a little dust, it feels almost like sandpaper because there's so much overspray when you're doing it this big. So if you try to sand this, it just immediately plugs your sandpaper, and you can't. That's why they say it's non-sandable. But if you use Dawn dish soap and water, and just it just glides over it, and it doesn't plug the sandpaper, and it just, I mean, feel it. It's just
Yeah, it's smooth. It's like glass.
yeah. So if anybody asked you what you did today, and you told them you were wet sanded a Peterbilt frame, they probably would maybe find a hospital for you to. But that, you know, that's what us gearheads do.
Yeah.
That's normal for us. So, but that's where we're at. I'm just wiping this down with some wax and grease remover. You know, so everybody that comes up has got to touch it. You get their grease off.
Like I'm leaning on it now.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go over it with a tack cloth. It's just a real sticky cloth. You've seen them, haven't you?
Yep.
And then, you know, them little dust bunnies that just grabs everything and pulls them right off. So, and then I'm going to start blowing some color on this thing. And if you complain about the color, my dad picked it, so I'll give you his phone number. I wanted red. The girlfriend said there's too many red trucks. My dad said there's too many red trucks. I do like that Ezra. You ever watch that guy, Ezra? Easy
I don't
Rider.
think so.
He's got a red Peterbilt he's fixing up. That's also a cool channel. But I really liked red, but you know, it's kind of a family project, so I let them get involved, and I let them pick the color. So it's green.
It's kind of like painting a nursery.
So I had like the Synergy green. You ever seen that, the newer Camaros?
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. But I was spraying down some. If you're doing a project this big, you gotta. If you pick the wrong color, you're not just gonna redo it. So
Yeah.
I couldn't find the color I wanted, but I really liked that Synergy green. My dad did, and the girlfriend did. But if I sprayed some samples, and if you're in the shade or in your artificial light, it's great. And the guy, thank God, the guy told me, he goes, you like that, huh? I said, I love it. He goes, did you take your sample outside? I go, no. He goes, you might want to do that. I go, why? He goes, a friend of mine has that car, that Camaro, and he goes, he loves it when it's cloudy out. He goes, when it's sunny, it's like yellow. I'm like, really? So I took it outside, and I'm like, it's yellow. It's too yellow. So then he mixed up me this other color, and it was too like shamrock green. And I was, Dad, this one, the girlfriend, this one, I couldn't decide. So then I mixed the two together.
Yeah.
I did another sample, and that's how I came up with the color.
So it's your own color, really.
Well,
Kind of.
yeah, I took a GM color and another, it was PPG Vibrance. They have a whole selection of, I took one of them colors and I mixed them 50-50, and we're gonna see. I mean, I did a sample and I showed 20 different people, and they all said, yep, that's the one. So I was having a hard time. I mean, they got to pick green, but I got to pick the shade, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, what am I going to do with this truck? Absolutely nothing. You know, and people say, well, why would you? People got $40,000 into 2 motorcycles.
Yeah.
$80,000 into a car.
Yeah.
What do you do with that? I don't know. I'm going to drive this to the bar and get drunk. Call for a ride home. I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I going to put it to work? Maybe when I retire, I might do a little something here and there, but I'd never put it in the snow and the salt.
Right.
After doing all this. So I don't know, just, you know, there's truck shows all over the country. I'd like to, some friends of mine, they drive to these truck shows all over. I don't know, you know, do that. So that's what I'm going to do with it.
Well, you got a cousin that always needs heavy equipment hauled too, so.
Yeah. I told him if he buys a frickin' step deck, I'll haul his junk around for him. We'll haul around in style.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Another thing I like to do, so how I got into this though is I restore vintage Polaris snowmobiles, and it's fun and I love it, but I want to move on to something else, so this is a little different, but
You get burnt out of the same.
yeah, and my funnest thing to do is, and I'm no Peterbilt expert. I've never owned a semi truck. I'm learning as I go. But I was just trying to say, oh, I love finding new old stock parts. That's fun for me because I did it with the snowmobile, and I'm really good at fishing. You know, I found like what's hot for these is they made gauges that say the speedo and the tack say Peterbilt right in the emblem, right inside the glass. I found a brand new tachometer still in the box, and I thought, wow. So I bought it, obviously, and I'll never find a speedometer. Oh yeah, I found a speedometer. So I actually got quite a few new old stock parts I've been locating for it. Oh, and I want to tell you a little bit about the back end too. So I'm a purist, which I think I like doing stuff all original. And the only thing was the back end, so the suspensions and everything, they were so worn out, and there was no fixing them. And both housings were cracked. They were both leaking gear oil right out of the bottom of the rear end tubes. And it was like, you know, they're shot. And so I wasn't going to try and find old stuff and rebuild it. So the back end of this, or the suspension that's in this truck, is from a 2014 Pete that was flopped over, had 80,000 miles on it, 0 rust. So there's no, I call them craters, you know, or you know what I mean, like
pits and stuff.
Pits, you know what I mean, when you sandblast. So 0 of that. So anyway, the suspension, rear suspension's low air leaf, and it's just, you know, I resealed the new hubs and the seals, and new drive shaft or yoke seals and all that stuff, but I just figured it's probably half the money I got into all that brand new stuff that I would rebuild that old junk that was in here. So, and that don't bother me because a lot of people do that nowadays.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't hurt to do a little updating.
no, and you know, if someone, you know, if I ever sell this and someone did want to put it to work, well, it's got modern, you know, it's got a 320. If people would probably ask, it's got a 325 gear ratio in it, so it's going to have long legs. Should be a triple-digit truck real easy. The back end now with that low air leaf, it'll sit like 2.5 inches lower than it used to. So in the front, to compensate, it has 2.5 inch blocks that sit under them springs.
Yeah.
Those are now in the dumpster. So the front end will sit, you know, bring the truck, just have a cooler stance too, you know.
Right.
A lot of people, I ain't gonna get crazy and airbag the thing, but it'll just be subtle. All new springs in the front, bushings, everything. So I'm just, like I say, I'm not made out of money. I save up money, go buy some parts, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Use what I can, but we're definitely gonna get this thing painted today. It's ready. And then we'll do another video.
Sounds good.
Right?
Let's get to it.
Yeah. So I don't know if you could do this. Maybe, I don't know if you trust me with that, but maybe tomorrow or something, I'd like to, when I get it rolled outside, just do a walk around.
Sure.
Or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That'll work. Till the next time.